The Old and the New number 1. The Old meaning the Old Testament, the main God, and the New one, which is the Son, Jesus Christ. A total eclipse of the heart. Yeah. This week has been a funny old how do you do, with an episode of The Prisoner called The Fall being played out in my mind, being part of the elite collective consciousness, a chat room in the home where people of higher recognition in society all dwell. So they are collectively analysing each other and playing their parts in judging and holding to account each person there. And as a rite of passage, as the room has established perversion, some members spiritually sprayed my private parts with semen. Some of them did as a thank you message. Some of them did it in a spirit of sarcasm. The home courtroom is full of victims and victors, victims who are victors and victims that are victors that are victims, who have had a lifetime of abuse, used as spiritual sexual beings, being mentally tortured with voices controlling them that otherwise can't sleep, external interference with objects being moved, weights placed on them, multiple hands all over their bodies, feeling dicks and fannies on their private parts and getting off on them depending on their handlers or wherever that's in these rooms, being made to do things in real world that involves humiliation, thievery, eating their own excrement like I had to. Other victims get a dose of torture, or you get a dose of torture anyway if you don't comply. Also these people have got handlers in real life as well that are torturing them, so to keep them in their place, and that are using witchcraft over them and doing all sorts of stuff. God has placed me there on the mercy seat, as in The Fall, to play judge and jury with my accusers and to play executioner with Christ. Being in a love triangle with ex-prodigal, who I have found out was a play by the devil to use him as a serpent seed. I think God was also using him to offer the promise to, but he passed it on if he converted and committed with his actions and stuff like that. So he could have chose to go either way, but he always avoided meeting up with me as he knew who I was, and he was more interested in his own lusts and said he didn't love me anyway, and ignored the feeling in his heart which could have been manipulated by the devil, and he weren't playing it either way, or God. And my incoming spouse, whom I think is very genuine, has a family heritage similar to mine, whom we have a lot in common: art, music, interests, current affairs, intellectually paired, into life string theory, but also sparky and tear each other down, has been rolled back anyway from me, so it doesn't have any influence over me regarding my kingdom spouse, who's my ex-kingdom spouse, who's my handler. My ex-prodigal says he's protecting me, but he has to play warlord to his masters, which is the anti-Semitic Jewish network of control, which is mainly seed-based people who are in this place, who control anyone that is on the higher echelons of life. My ex was slewed, and another member of his family, and spirit mounted my ex-prodigal to become stronger, to try and take me down mentally and physically, and literally had to redirect their spells back on them, because it was hurting in my head. Literally a war going on inside my head, and I've had a few spiritual fights with him too, which is my ex-prodigal. It gets all confusing. God has brought my accusers, whom I know, ones that I used, have used examples of their behaviour towards me and my family, including those who have slewed my mum physically in real life, those who have not helped lift us up when they could have, family members that have coveted our royal family inheritance, and those people who were dubbed with the lamb were taken out after many chances. With the witchcraft was quite intense yesterday and the day before. So I am unsure whether they met a physical death or a spiritual death. This is yet to be confirmed, because sometimes they're walking around quite okay. And also one in particular was brought together with his handler, who was involved with slewing my mum, who's handling my brother at the moment, because he's just got brought into the helm as well. And I'm a prophetess, and I don't know whether my brother is a prophet, but I'll have to see. And my brother gave in hell because they were playing pictures of my mum being slewed, having her arms and hands took off, and her chest opened and her heart ripped up and stuff like that, and she was talking the Lord's Prayer and looking up at the ceiling. I didn't see it all because of me protected for some reason, but Paul's been seeing it over and over again, my brother, and it's pretty awful. And I've been having physical replications of a death, but it's not as bad because it's took to breaking point, but I can feel, like it feels like my lungs are out, and like it's very painful. So I'm having to undergo this kind of spiritual demonic attacks like these. My mum was as poor as a dormouse, and my aunts and uncles hid information about her family heritage. I think my mum burnt some family papers, which was of massive relevance to claiming the inheritances, and there was a lot of family squabbling over it in the past, and my mum was clueless about a royal and somewhat else heritage. Genesis, the serpent seed theory, English translation. Eve knew her husband with Cain and Abel. Genesis chapter 3 verse 6. The woman saw how beautiful the tree was, and how good its fruit would be to eat, and she thought how wonderful it would be to become wise. So she took some of the fruit and ate it. Then she gave some to her husband, and he also ate it. As soon as they had eaten it, they were given an understanding and realised that they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and covered themselves. There was someone of massive Jewish relevance who was in the US, who brought into the Helm courtroom, who I've admired watching on YouTube in the past. He was thoroughly testing the spirit in me, and also realming me, and researching about the serpent seed theory, and a local theologian at the local demonic, what I think, based churches, it's kind of been proven with the way it looks, was cross-referencing each other, and God revealed to me that Eve ate of the seed, which meant she made love somehow to the spirit-mounted snake, and the seed was the tree of knowledge that was passed down the generations like a growing tree. And the Isaac Newton link neutron bomb falling apple represented the fall of mankind via passed on sin, and genuine Jews who put God first as one in the highest heavens are dubbed with lamb's blood along with Christians, Exodus being dubbed on the doors, and the angel of death passing by. And this was a demonstration last night to the higher establishment that this was a demonstration of what was to come on Judgment Day, when we all have to account for ourselves. Now back to the snake knowing Eve, about angelic spirits mounting objects around us. This is what was kind of downloaded to me. Now that can be either way, demonically mounted or spiritually mounted, and gave me a picture that depicts a girl that looks like my daughter, me, my mum and my strange sister, indicating safety with a spirit mounted angels around them, which was of cats, and my daughter has lots of plushies around her, so he was using a love of cats to protect her with these angels being mounted on them, and that could be the same with the serpent as well. Could be a theory that actually went into the serpent spiritually. Then I had an incident with the revealing of this knowledge, thinking I might get physical attacks, and I was at the local park with my daughter, quite late with my daughter, and a pit bull was coming over. He was triggered from afar and looked like he was about to launch and attack my daughter, but he turned tail and started to rip the swing into the swing seat, and it was quite violent. And this was a pretty big indication that God sent something into the dog to divert it from us, which is spiritual redirection. It was a definite demonic attempted attack. So the last thing is more or less from God, a message to genuine all Jews. There is a sorting out of the wheat from the chaff, and God is calling on his people. Bear with me. Okay, the message from God, a message to all genuine Jews. There's a sorting out of the wheat from the chaff, and God is calling on his people, those to put him centre, to hold account demonically led Jewish people. This is not an anti-Semitic statement. This is about a matter of life or death to your people. And God says that that you're accepted, if you're a Jew that believes in the Orthodox way to put God first, and even if you accept Jesus, you're both in the same camp, you're both dubbed by the Lamb of Christ, and you're both dubbed by the main God, and it's both in unison. It's no matter, it's just the demonic line that are not accepted. So kind of need to bring them into order, because they have nothing to do with real Jews, with the real content. Okay, thank you.